Hey everybody, Heather here. So today we're going to be coloring this cute Magnolia image called Up, Up, and Away. And I've already stamped my image on Neenah 80-pound solar white cardstock with Memento Tuxedo black ink. And if you'd like to see if this kit is still available, if you're watching it later on, head over to the store. There's a link down in the description box. And then just type in Up, Up, and Away in the little search box on the store. And if it's available, it'll pop up. If not, check out the other kits while you're there. So let's color. So I'm going to start out by coloring the ground that she's going to be standing on here. And for that I'm going to use G20 and G12. And I'm going to start out with my G20. And I don't want the ground to just stop right here where she's standing. I'm going to bring my grass back here a little bit. So I'm just going to take my pen and feather around her foot. Nothing too exciting, just a little bit. And then I'm going to grab my G12 and I'm going to add a little bit of shadows. So she's going to be standing on the ground, so you want to make sure it's darker underneath there. And she's kind of leaning back, so I'm going to go ahead and bring this back here, like this, and just bring that like that. Maybe bring this one up just a little bit. Just give it a little bit of a shadow. Then I'm going to take my G20 again, and I'm just going to go right over the edge of that G12 and just soften it. And then if you want, you could bring your grass out further onto your piece. I'm thinking of maybe even bring the shadow right here out just a little bit more, because she's leaning back, so her hair is going to cast a little bit of a shadow in her body there. And then to outline my image, I'm going to take my B quadruple 0. And I'm just going to go all the way around. So for that, I'm just going to take my pen and I lay it down right on the edge of her body, and I just lightly flick out like I'm making a check mark away from her. Let's go around her foot and up here. And this works really good too if your pen is wet. If it's getting dried out and needs refilled, it doesn't work that great. We're just going to go all the way around. Go up here. We're going to go around this balloon. Here, get right around it. Doing it now too, if you accidentally get some of your color on your picture, you can go back in and erase it. That makes it kind of nice. So we're going to go all the way down here to the edge of her ponytails. And we want to get in between her ponytail here, so let's go ahead and give that a little quick scrubbing. And I want to get on this side and flick away from her leg over here. Okay, and then I take my colorless blender and I just swirl all over the whole thing, making sure to go off of the edge of the color I already colored. And this also works best if your pen is wet. If it's all dried out, it doesn't work that great. Another good thing about doing this now is you can color right over her, and it doesn't matter, because she doesn't have any color on her. You don't have to worry about erasing anything. So next, let's go to her skin, and I'm going to use my favorite skin tone, which is E21, E00, and E000. For the cheeks, I'm going to use R20 and R30. There are some other skin tones listed over on the store blog, and there's a link down in the description to go to that. And then just under labels on the left-hand side of the blog, if you scroll down to Copic skin tones or skin tones, you can pick your own new favorite. So I'm going to start with E21, and I'm going to say that the sun's coming from like over this way. So we're going to get down here, and we're going to add some shadows first. So I'm going to do right next to her sleeve, and then I'm going to go up this side of her arm. She's got a little bitty spot right there that kind of goes in, so I'm going to go ahead and give that a little extra. Same right here. There's already some shadow dots right there for me. And then she's got her finger's got a little indentation, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And let's go down here, and here's her elbow. We want to give that some color. And then I'm going to go up here to her hand, and kind of around here to where the tip of this little swirl is. Oops. And then let's go ahead and do this hand right up here too. So I'm just going to give that some color right down here at the bottom. Like that. And then I'm going to grab E00, and I'm going to lay it down on top of the E21, and I'm going to pull that color out here to my white space. And I'm going to go ahead and go back over it again because I can still see my line there. And then we're going to add a little bit of color up here to her other hand. And then I'm going to fill that extra space in with my E000. And again, I've laid it down on top of my other color and pull towards my white. Okay, and then let's go to her face, and for that again I'm going to start with E21. And let's just go ahead and do this little side over here first. And I'm just barely using the tip of my marker and going along the edge. And then her hand is kind of touching her face right here. And let's get her up here under her bangs. Like that. And then this side of her face is downhill, so I'm going to go ahead and take my brush of my edge. I'm going to kind of tip my pen more towards the side and lay so I can take up more space. And we're going to take up more of this area over here because it's in the shadows. It's more towards the bottom of her face there. Okay, and then I'm going to grab E00. And again, you lay down on top of your E21, and I'm going to pull my color out towards my white. Okay, and then down here we want to flick this up here into her face. And then I'm going to take E000 and fill that little space in. And then I'm going to give her some cheek color, so I'm going to grab my R20. And over here I'm just going to give it a little bit, just kind of go just a tad past that little circle that she's got on her cheek already. And then over here, I'm going to come down here past these little circles towards on the edge of her face. And give her a little kind of a circle there. And then I'm going to take R30, and I'm just going to very lightly go over the edge. So I'm touching down on the R20, and I'm feathering the edge of that color. Then I like to go back and I like to add a little bit more color to her face. So I'm going to take my E21. And I'm not going to put quite so much on this time. I'm just going to go a little bit on the edge of her cheek right there. And then I'm going to grab my E00. And I'm going to go right over the top of that. But I'm going to pull out towards the edge of her cheek. And then on this side, I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. I'm going to pull past the edge of that cheek. And then I'm going to grab my E000 and just brush clear across her face. And soften up all those lines. Next, let's go do her hair, and for that I'm going to use E57, 55, 53, and 50. I'm going to start with my E57, and I'm going to put in some shadows. So let's go up here, and she's got a nice little part right here, so I'm going to go ahead and just use the very tip of my pen and give that little part some flicks towards the top. And I'm just going to continue my way around, and I'm going to come back on this side, and I try to keep my strokes going in the same direction her hair is going. And the artist has already put some great lines in there for us. So just like that. And then I want to add some shadows down here. So her hair kind of dips in right here. So right there I'm going to add some shadows. And this one looks like it kind of folds behind. So I'm going to go ahead and go right there. We're going to go up here by her ear. And I'm going to put a little bit right here. And then underneath, I want to go underneath of her ear because it's kind of behind here. So I'm going to go all the way down here to where her hair stops and give it a nice little shadow. And I think I'll actually extend this one just a little bit. That looks kind of silly. Okay, and then down here on this braid, it kind of comes out from behind that one, so I'm going to give that a little bit of flick. And then this one's coming out from underneath, so I'm going to flick right there. And then of course right here where it goes back into a little ponytail scrunchie there, and it comes back out. And then down here where the curl's dipping underneath. Okay, same for this one. This one comes out from behind another piece. I'm going to give that a brush, and this right here is coming out from behind. And I'm just going to go get all those that come out. And this one's going into the scrunchie, so we'll go ahead and get that. And then a little bit here at the end where it's curling back under. I think I'll actually do this one just a little bit on this side right here. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, and then I'm going to grab E55, and I'm going to start back up here at the top. So I'm going to lay down on top of my 57, and we're going to add a little bit more color. And because her head is backwards, it's down here more in the shadows, I'm going to bring this color down more around to the back. Okay, and then right here, I didn't want it to be too dark right here, but there's a little dip in her hair right here. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of this darker medium shade right there in that dip. Give it a little bit of contrast right there. And then same thing down here, we want to go and add some more color down here to all these colors that we added to the bottom. I think I'll bring this one up just a little bit. And we'll just work our way down. Just adding some shadows to that little braid. Let's go ahead and start a little bit of shadow on this side over here. Okay, and then we're going to grab E53. And I'm going to go ahead and fill in back here in the back. And then brush a little bit of that color around to the front. I'm going to leave some extra there, some white for my lightest color still. And I'm just going to work my way down here to the back. And I'm going to go ahead and get clear back here all the way. And then we'll add a little bit of color over here. A little color like that. But I left a nice little white streak there for my E50. Okay, and then we're going to go down here and fill in some of this. And again, I'm leaving a little bit of space for my white. Of white there for my E50. Oh, here comes Deekie to see what we're doing. Hi, Deek. Are you bored? And then I'm going to take E50 and fill that in. So I'm just going to brush right over that nice color. And fill in my white. And same for up here. I got a little bit right there. Next, let's go do her shirt and her little hair bows. And for that, we're going to use V25, V22, and V20. And I'm going to start with V25. And let's just go down here and give each one of these little hair bows a little dab. So I'm going to do the little knot on her hair, and then I'm going to give each one of these little little bows, a little swoosh right in the middle. And then up here for her shirt, I'm going to give the crook of her little sleeve a little bit. Oh, and right there's a little piece of arm. Let me grab E21 and fill that little piece of arm in right there. I missed that. Okay, and then I'm going to take my V25 again, and I'm going to do right up here along the edge of this little ruffle. And then on the inside of her shirt, I'm going to go along her arm and down the inside of her little coveralls, the little strap. And then same for this side. Let's do right next to her arm, and then right along where her little coveralls are touching her shirt. And then she's got some great shadow stripes back here already that the artist put on for that. For us, I'm going to go ahead and just follow along the back of her shirt and then give each one of those little shadows a little dollop of color. And let's go right underneath of her chin and right along the edge of this little lace on her sleeve. And there's a little shadow line, so I'm going to get that. Oh, and then let's do right up here, right next to her arm, just a little bit. Like that. Then I'm going to grab E22, and let's go up here and give these little bows a little swoosh again. So I'll go ahead and add just a little bit more of my purple to those bows. But I left a little bit of white for our V20. I'm going to go up here to our shirt, and we're just going to add a little bit more color. So I'm just going to it's kind of a small area, so I'm just going to kind of very lightly dab my pen along the edge of that V25 and just soften that line a little bit. And some of these spaces like this one, that's pretty small. I'm just going to fill that all the way in. And up here where her little collar is, we'll fill that in. And then back here, again, I'm going to dab right on that little line and just soften it a little bit, but leave space for my V20. Okay, then I'm going to grab V20, and I'm going to fill in her bow. And then I'm going to go up here and I'm going to fill in the rest of her shirt. And then she's got some little buttons on her coveralls right here. I'm going to take my V25 and I'm going to do the edge of the buttons. And then I'm going to take V20 and color in the top. And I didn't stress over that string, I'm just going to color right over the top of it. Okay, so now let's go and conquer these cute little pants she's got on. And for that I'm going to use W7, 5, 3, 1, and 00. And I'm going to start with my W7. So I want to add some shadow, so I'm going to go up here and I'm going to add a little bitty shadow at the top of this little coverall. And then I'm going to go down the edge of the coverall. There's a little line right there all ready for us. I'm just going to go right down that edge, along the bottom, just following that line. Same for this side, right along the top. And then I'm going to go right along the edge of that little strap. And then down here, I'm going to add a little bit to her little booty. And then I'm going to go around this pocket. And again, I'm just using the very tip of my pen. And I'm barely touching that paper. And we're just going to follow her booty right around here over to this little shadow she's got in her pants. Like that. And then let's go ahead and bring this line down here. The artist already put some wonderful little dots on here, so you've just kind of got to follow those and add your shadows in. And go down here. Here's a little bump. And come right along the bottom of her pants. That, and let's get this has got a little shadow, and her knee's going to cast a shadow, and her foot's kind of hanging up there, so I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit right there. And then for this side, we want to go ahead and get some of these little bumps on the back of this leg, and then of course her knee, and her foot right here's got a little bump. And her little pants right here where her knee's coming up is going to cause a wrinkle, so I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of color in there. Okay, I think that, well, no, let's go ahead and do this little, I want to go around the sole of her foot just a little bit. So I'm going to give that just a little dab. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, now I'm going to grab W5, and I'm going to touch down on the top, that color, and I need to leave a little bit of space for my W3. So I'm just going to brush right on the edge of that color, and then brush up here, and add some more on there, like that. Okay, let's soften that line. I'm just going to go right along that line and pull that color into my white space. Edge of this foot. Work our way down to this foot. That's looking pretty good. I'll maybe do a little bit on this side of this foot. Okay. And then I'm going to grab W3. I'm going to fill in these straps. And fill in all the area on our coveralls here. Careful down here going around her foot, try not to go out of the lines. And I'm going to brush over that a second time to lighten it up. Soften my edges. Okay, and then while I have my W3 out, I'm going to start her pocket. So I'm going to brush a little bit of my W3 along the back of her pocket. And then I'm going to grab W1. Add some color right on top of that. And then for her foot down here, we're going to go ahead and start that. So I want to go ahead and add my W1 down here at the bottom of her foot. And then her foot kind of curves in right here, so I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of color, wider on this side, kind of skinnier on this side. Then I'm going to take W0, double zero. We're going to fill the rest of that pocket in. And we're going to fill in this rest of this foot down here. So that leaves us with this balloon up here, and for that I'm going to use Y38, Y35, and Y32. I'm going to start with my Y38, and it's got a little dip right here, so I'm going to go ahead and put some color right in that little dip and bring that up towards the top and get it skinnier until it comes to the little corner right there. Okay, and then down here on the bottom I'm going to fill in that knot, and then I'm just going to flick up on the bottom of my little balloon and add some color. Try not to go out of the lines. And let's give the other side of this little knot just a little dab, like that. Okay, and then I'm going to grab Y35. I'm going to add a little bit more to my knot. And then we're going to flick up. And pull that color down into our white. And I'm going to bring this color all the way around to this side. And I'm going to go back over this bottom section a little bit more because that color, my line's still a little harsh. Just brush right over that again. And then I'm going to take Y32 and fill it in. And don't forget your knot. I'm going to go over it again. Soften that line just a little bit more. So that is our Up, Up, and Away Tilda. Isn't she really cute? And let's see here. And here is the finished card. And I've went ahead and added my Spica glitter pen to her little curls for her hair here to add some glitter. And then to this little balloon I put my Stickle Stardust on. And on the center of these little flowers down here I went and added a little bit for some sparkles. But that's Up, Up, and Away. I hope you had fun coloring today. If you have a question, go ahead and leave a comment and I will get back to you. Otherwise, have a great day. Thanks. Bye.